you go up at the top and put your arrow at the top of your screen, sometimes it will pull it up and say gallery view. Oh, we're live.
Yep. We're live, guys.
We're live.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. We've got a special guest with us. We have Bigfoot researcher, an investigator, and a lecturer, Eric Altman, with us. Eric, thanks for joining us tonight. He's also a co-founder of Beyond the Edge radio show. He is a co-organizer and co-host of Bigfoot Camping Adventure. And he is also the founder of the Pennsylvania Cryptozoology Society. He's an aspiring author on the Bigfoot phenomenon, and he's a special guest with us. So thanks for coming and bringing your wealth of knowledge to us tonight.
So exciting. So exciting.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Karen, I know you're dying to ask the first question. So what would you like to ask the man now that you have him in front of us?
Is his name really Daryl, or is that just one of them?
That's his most recent name.
Okay.
Oh, now that perks interest. What was his past names? Bob.
There's way too many. I don't think we have enough time on the show for it.
I'm so glad they put that out there. I love that.
It is. The Bigfoot phenomenon is amazing, and it's so alive. Are there sightings, have they increased, and is that why they're more alive, or is it just the fact that he's so elusive and that's why he's probably alive?
The whole phenomenon has really become quite popular in the last 10 years, thanks to social media. There are people that have really kind of been closet fanatics or closet fans, and with the advent of social media coming out, a lot more people are finding information about it and realizing there's researchers and there's ways that they can report sightings, and it's not so much taboo as it used to be, because back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s, people really had this stigma of reporting what they saw. They were afraid to report it because they were labeled as nuts or hallucinating or fabricating stuff, and people didn't want to have that label attached to them. So if they did see something, they kept it quiet. A lot of people have come forward now because it's kind of a cool thing, with all the TV shows and all the popularity of it's become a pop culture phenomenon. So people have really felt a lot less intimidated about coming forward. So the sightings have really gone up because people feel less intimidated about reporting it. Unfortunately, there's a bad side to that too, because with the advent of social media and the access of the internet and getting the word out, there's a lot more hoaxing going on. And there's a lot more reports that are being submitted, but those reports aren't, unfortunately, there's a lot of them that aren't legitimate reports. So it has its good and bad sides to it.
And do you investigate those? Like, I know you, like, are you strictly just Pennsylvania and track the sightings, or do you venture into other states also?
I've investigated cases all up and down the East Coast, Maryland, West Virginia, mainly Pennsylvania. That's where I'm from. I've done some research and investigations in Ohio and New York. I have not been over to New Jersey, although I've been invited several times. Been to Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, even down to Georgia. So I've been up and down the East Coast, and I've done a lot of investigating cases in different parts of the East Coast.
Wow.
So have you ever seen anything yourself?
I've never seen a Bigfoot creature that I can say was definitely a Bigfoot creature. I've had some really hair-raising experiences. I've had rocks thrown at me, and the research group I was with. We've heard some pretty hair-raising screams that have come out of the forest at night. We've heard the wood knocks. We've heard primate sounds that sound like either monkey chatter or primate whoop calls that most people are familiar with. So I've had a lot of experiences, but I've never seen the creature.
Wow, that's a lot though, just the experiences.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
What do they think Bigfoot is? What do you guys think Bigfoot is?
that's really hard to answer because we don't have an actual creature in captivity or a dead carcass to study. So there's a variety of theories and speculations as to what Bigfoot is. During the 1970s, the first generation, the 50 through the 70s, the first generation of researchers that were involved in this thought it was some kind of undiscovered primate, a North American ape that wasn't discovered. And as we progressed further into the future, people began to think, well, possibly it was a relative of the Gigantopithecus, which was discovered. The fossil remains were discovered in caves in the Chinese Southern Asia region. And it was the largest upright walking primate to exist. And it stood probably close to 10 to 12 feet in height when it did stand up. And some of the primatologists and some of the anthropologists that are currently getting involved in the subject feel that that fits the best description of what people are seeing. So there's speculation and theories that it could be a relative or possibly an offshoot of the Gigantopithecus. Also with moving into the future, we got a lot more people that began to ask questions. Why don't we have a body? Why don't we have remains? Why don't we have more evidence than just sightings and footprints? So people began to theorize that perhaps that Bigfoot was an alien that was possibly being beamed down from spaceships or dropped off on this planet by another alien race. People, for some reason, have that thought in their head. Now there were sightings in the early 70s and even into the 1980s where people had seen UFOs and Bigfoot at the same time or at the same location, either before or after each other. So that's where that theory kind of evolved from. There are people with the advent of this new idea and theory that scientists have stated there's other dimensions other than ours. People have now begun to theorize that possibly Bigfoot is a multi-dimensional creature that has the ability to move between dimensions, its dimension and ours. So there's a variety of different theories what Bigfoot is. To be perfectly honest, I don't think anybody knows what Bigfoot is because we don't have one. There's just a lot of people speculating and making guesses at this point.
Right. So, yeah, like, talking about the interdimensional thing, that totally resonates with me. I guess just because I do live a lot in the medium world and the spiritual world, because that's where I'm at, like probably 90% of my life. So that interdimensional thing actually resonates with me a lot more than saying it's a primate or, some kind of evolved, maybe non-evolved person. So that's nice that other people have their own, I guess, their own take on it.
Aww.
You know what I mean? So, lucky little baby. So I really think it's cool that everybody's open and has their own opinions and thoughts. And actually it resonates. You know what I mean? Every single different piece resonates.
There are a variety of different opinions and theories about what a Bigfoot is, of course, like I said, but there's people that, and it probably happens in the medium world, the mediumship world, the paranormal world, the ufology world. People fight about the subject constantly. You have different camps, and one camp thinks they're right, while they be or an alien race. They think those people are nuts. And there's no way, there's not any proof that Bigfoot is an alien or comes through a dimensional portal or whatever, the other side believes. So there's always fighting going on between those who believe Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature and those who believe that Bigfoot is an alien or an interdimensional being. There's constant fighting going on. And
it would be better if we didn't fight and we just worked together to figure it out, unify ourselves and figure it out together instead of fighting and saying one's wrong and one's not, one's right. And that fascinates me. That I'm not going to lie to you, Eric. I have no idea about Bigfoot. I don't have a lot of history with it or knowledge. And I was so excited to hear that you were coming on and that we could ask all these questions because I am completely dumbfounded. I'm not gonna lie. I'm completely dumbfounded about Bigfoot, and I listen to Karen and Tracy B about stuff, and I'm like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, no, Tracy C is shaking her head yes because she's like me.
I'm the same way. I'm like, I gotta see it to believe it. Sorry.
And there's people that have that opinion too, that they're skeptical about it, and I myself am skeptical about it. Until I actually see a creature for myself, there's always the possibility that it doesn't exist. And what I'm experiencing out in the woods that I believe may be Bigfoot related, may not be Bigfoot related. There's a lot of people that are skeptical and have that opinion that, they need the physical proof. They need more than just eyewitness testimony. They need more than circumstantial evidence in the form of footprints or things like that. So, I completely understand where the skeptical people are coming from, because there isn't an abundance of evidence to prove this animal exists. But that also strengthens the case for those who believe that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being, because they say, well, of course you're not going to have proof, because Bigfoot can go through a portal and disappear into another dimension, and we're never going to find one. So there's a lot of arguments and support for a lot of the different theories and speculations of what Bigfoot is. And that's why there's a lot of arguments, because people can't agree. And unfortunately, that's the biggest downfall about the whole Bigfoot community, is that nobody can really agree. And unfortunately, nobody can agree to disagree. So there's a lot of fighting and there's a lot of bickering.
We always just agree to disagree. And you know what? I have to admit, Eric, I'm not skeptical of it, because I see a lot of things and experience things that other people don't. So I can't say that I don't believe them, because there's people that say they don't believe me, because that I see ghosts and I see spirits and, goblins and whatever else. So, but I mean, could it be, let me ask this. Could it be like a manifestation of energy that was created by people that believed in it so much that it's just manifested?
It's highly unlikely, because this phenomenon dates back hundreds, if not thousands of years. There's literature about it in the Bible, actually.
Really?
And there are people that interpret the passage in Genesis, when it talks about, in Genesis, there were giants in the land. And they interpret that as possibly being Bigfoot. There's stories, Beowulf, for example, and there's stories and tales that talk about Bigfoot that have references to a wild man or a hair-covered creature in their legends and lore. So it's not just something that's happened in the 1970s forward. There's stories and articles about this I have in my collection that date back into the 1800s. So even back then, there wasn't really a lot of people that were experiencing it. Mostly Native American, first American tribes were experiencing it, and each one has their own legends and stories and tales about Bigfoot in their folklore. And so for it to be a manifestation, it would have to be something that everybody knew about and really put belief in. But back then, there was people that were realizing it was around and experiencing it and telling tales, but not everybody knew about it. It really didn't come into the public domain, public eye, until 1958, when actually Sasquatch, or the wild man, got its name of Bigfoot. After 1958, then it became more and more of a public knowledge, where people were hearing about it, reading about it in newspaper articles. So probably not until the 60s, and even the Patterson-Gimlin film that came out in 1967, that's really what exploded Bigfoot onto the scene.
That's really interesting. I had no idea about that. Could it be, you said about, and I'm not quoting you, because what you just said about like a hair-covered man, is that what you said? Could that be like a shapeshifter?
Well, there are people that believe that Bigfoot is a shapeshifter,
right?
Kind of like a skinwalker, or
skinwalker.
But there's not enough real proof that there is. There are people that speculate because Bigfoot's seen and then it's not seen. It's gone, there and gone real quickly, so it automatically turns into something else. But there's really no proof or evidence to back that theory up. It's just a theory.
So I have a question. What is your personal belief on Bigfoot?
To be honest with you, I don't know what this thing is. There's so many ideas and theories about what it could be. I've had my own personal experiences, what I believe could be a Bigfoot. I've talked to hundreds of people across the country. I've investigated almost close to 300 cases in the last 22 years. There's so many twists and turns that I've found that really get me thinking, okay, when I started this, I thought this has to be a undiscovered primate, a North American primate that's just so rare and is so elusive and intelligent that that's why we can't catch it. That's why we can't get pictures of it. But as time goes on, and I talk to other researchers, other eyewitnesses who've had experiences, it makes me realize, okay, there may be something more to this phenomenon than just a North American ape. But I haven't experienced that myself to really sway my opinion. So I really don't know what this thing is. And until we have a body, until we have either a live or dead specimen to study, I don't think anybody's going to know what it is.
Well, I think what's interesting to me is that every continent has something. Nepal has the Yeti, every place has something similar.
Right.
So it's almost global.
Yeah, there are a lot of countries. As I mentioned earlier, Asia, they have a creature they call the Yeren. Chinese Chinese translation into English is wild man. In Australia, they have the Yowie, which again, translation into wild man. There's so many different countries that have different descriptions of the creature, but they're also similar. And it's, you're right. It's not just a North American or South American phenomenon. It's a global phenomenon that's going on.
Yeah. I think that's what makes me believe in it.
Do you think possibly they could be no, that's all right. Do you think they could possibly be living underground? Because there's been talk that they could be living underground, and maybe that's why we don't see them, because they only come out at night.
Sure, it's a possibility. Again, we don't have enough proof that they do live underground. There are very few cases that talk about people chasing a Bigfoot, or a lynch mob, or a posse, if you will, chasing a Bigfoot, and it runs into a cave and disappears. That's happened, but there's not enough evidence to show that they're actually living in the caves or actually going underground. We can't rule it out because we don't have enough information to say one way or the other.
Right.
So interesting.
Evidence gathered. Go ahead.
I am blown away right now because, and I'm being honest. I thought, oh, Bigfoot, Smigfoot. You know what I mean? And I'm serious. And now I'm thinking, I'm taking notes, as you guys can see. I'm taking notes because I'm okay, hundreds to thousands of years ago, I need to read about this. Why have I been under a rock? I've been with Bigfoot. You know what I mean? Under this rock. And you said 1958 is when it really come into play. Is that what you said, around 1958?
Yeah, in Pacific Northwest, mainly in British Columbia, the Native American tribe in that area, they had, I guess you call it a relationship with a tribe of wild men. They considered a tribe, but they called them Saskahavas. And there was a guy named J.W. Burns who spent a lot of time with the tribe, the Chehalis tribe in British Columbia. And at that time, he got to know about their legends and their stories and stuff like that. And they told him how they were afraid of this Saskahavas creature. And this Saskahavas would come in and chase people into their huts. Any encounters they had in the forest with this creature or this other tribe of wild men was never a positive one. So it was a relationship, but it wasn't a good relationship. So as J.W. Burns learned about this, he anglicized the word Saskahavas into Sasquatch. And that became the common phrase in the Pacific Northwest, was Sasquatch. And there were many sightings and encounters, newspaper articles written about various tribes having encounters and experiences with Sasquatch. And up until 1958, it was either called wild men or wild man or wild woman and Sasquatch. It was, the other tribes had various names for the creature itself. But in 1958, there was a road crew that was building a road into an area that was going to be logged and timbered. And they had some Native American folks that worked on this logging crew. And as they were pushing their way into an area called Bluff Creek, California, they they would do their work. They'd go home on the weekend. The Native American workers would return to their families. And when they come back on Monday to continue the work, they'd find large human-like footprints all around their bulldozers, their heavy machinery equipment. And they'd find 30 to 40 pound gallon drums of oil or gasoline that were picked up and thrown down ravines or into the creek. And they weren't there when they weren't in that position when they found them. So they weren't really sure what was going on. And Jerry Crew was a foreman of this crew logging, road building crew in the logging area. And he finally decided to make tracks of plaster casts of these tracks that he was finding. And the Native American people knew about it, and they called it Sasquatch. So he took these tracks to the Humboldt Times newspaper on October 6, 1958, and he showed them these Sasquatch tracks. And the headline, I'm summarizing, of course, but basically said, "That's one Bigfoot." And that's how it kind of captured the phrase Bigfoot from that large footprint cast that Jerry Crew showed the Humboldt Times newspaper on October 6, 1958. And from that point forward, that name just kind of stuck. And the Caucasian folks in the country continued to call it Bigfoot, as we know it commonly now. But a lot of the Native American tribes have different names for it. As I mentioned, the Chehalis tribe, they called it Susquehavas, which got anglicized into Sasquatch. But other tribes had different names for it. And there's probably over 200 tribes in North America that have different names for the creature itself. So everybody seems to think, oh, Sasquatch is just the Native American name for it. Well, it is, but from only one tribe, the Chehalis tribe in British Columbia. But they're like here in Pennsylvania, my home state, the Lenni Lenape tribe, they called it Missing. And the Missing wasn't necessarily a Bigfoot, but it's interpreted that it could have been a Bigfoot because it was a hair-covered wild man, a protector of the forest, and it was very tall, very muscular and broad. So, of course, we read that description and we interpret it as possibly being a Bigfoot. But many other tribes have different names for this creature.
So, Eric, we have a question from someone that's watching. Nina Lynch has asked, has anyone found any Bigfoot bones?
Nothing that's been made public. And if it was made public, it was covered up pretty quickly. There's some speculation and theory going around that, and it's just all speculation, there's no proof, but there was speculation a few years ago that the Smithsonian came into possession of very large human-like bones. And supposedly in South America, there was several very large skeletal remains found of giants, if you will. Whether or not those are Bigfoot, we don't know yet, but those have been found and discovered. But no one's ever come forward publicly and said, I've got Bigfoot bones. And to be honest, most people that are out in the woods that are hiking, even if they're experienced outdoorsmen or trappers, hunters, whatever they are, if they come across bones in the woods, they just assume that they're bear bones or deer bones or common animal. Right. Because usually when an animal dies in the forest, within 7 to 10 days of it dying, its body is pretty much decomposed to the point where it's unrecognizable. There's a few bones that are remaining, and they usually get scattered by small predators like field mice and porcupine. They love to eat bones and the marrow in the bones. So they break the bones down, and usually there's not much remaining after 7 to 10 days of a find in the forest.
So why, you said about if there were bones found, they would take that out of the public eye quickly. Why? What would make them hide that information?
Well, this is just my opinion, and others have their own different opinions. My opinion is the reason they're keeping, if the government knows about it, and I think there is some knowledge going on.
I totally agree.
I think the reason they're doing is several-fold. If a creature of this magnitude was discovered and made public, you're going to have a lot of people out there trying to find it with guns to shoot it, and that may cause some public injuries in the forest. You have the logging industry to consider. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and if this animal is considered protected as an endangered species, that means its habitat has to be protected. And there goes all that public land, or that land's going to be changed to protected habitat, and that means no one can log it anymore. So it can cost a lot of money for the logging industry, billions of dollars in losses. If you guys remember the spotted owl and the up in the Pacific Northwest, that was made an endangered species, and all of a sudden all the habitat was made off limits for anybody to go in and log, and that cost a lot of money for the logging community.
Right.
Plus there's also some religious ramifications that could take place, because the evolutionary aspect versus religion, there may be some uproar in that field as well, because you may have the people that don't believe in evolution and believe in creation. Yeah, there may be some issues there. So I don't think the public is quite ready for it yet.
Right.
And I don't think the government is ready to release that information yet.
That's funny you said that, because we have a question that came in on Facebook here. It says, can we assume that it's a species of Neanderthals that really never went extinct? And you talked about, like, just now talking about the religious ramifications of, did we evolve? Are we from God? That kind of thing. So that's interesting. You said that, and then we had that question.
And to answer the question, there's no way of knowing that if it's a species that's evolved from Neanderthal. Over in Russia, there is some speculation and theories that their almasty, the creature that they call the Bigfoot, is called almasty. Their theory is that it may be an off-breed or an evolved creature that came from the Neanderthal man, but there's no way we can prove that until we actually have a live species.
Right.
Or dead one.
I hate to say this, I do, because part of me is like, run, Bigfoot. Don't ever let them find you. You hide until they can't find you anymore, right? Like,
Right.
Part of me is saying that because we as humans mess everything up, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, run, and then part of me is like, no, I need to find one of these suckers, because first off, I'd love to be able, because Karen, you can connect with animals too, right?
And you make fun of me every time I do the Bigfoot holler.
Well, I don't make fun of you. It's just, I'm like, okay, I do. I make fun of you. But after today, I'm becoming more of a non-believer. And I have to say that. Thank you, Eric. But, like animal communication, if it is a breed of animal, even if it's not a breed of animal, we can communicate with energy. A lot of mediums can, a lot of people that are empathic or have some kind of spiritual ability. Karen, can you imagine us talking to?
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be so cool.
Like, I want to ask it questions.
Well, his name is Daryl. Come on.
That's right.
There you go.
But I want to ask, like, I guess the first question I would ask, and I'm really excited about this. I think the first question I would ask a Bigfoot, people comment below on what a question that you would be dying to ask a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch, a Yeti, whatever whatever your terminology is for them. I think my first question would be, how did you stay so elucid? Like, do you have super abilities of like hearing, smelling, seeing, that you could hear them from a mile, like people from a mile away, and you run and you hide? Or, like, how did you stay so hidden? Because there are some animals that stay hidden, and we assume they're extinct. And now that the COVID's here, now they're coming out of the woodwork, and we have certain ducks that are not even on the extinct list anymore.
True that I've heard, like I watched the series on TV recently, the one that they did about the high-pitched sound, perhaps might be related to a Bigfoot, that's probably part of its protection in a way, that they make those real high-pitched sounds. They kept hearing like maybe sounds that we couldn't hear in our natural ear, that perhaps that could go on. Because isn't now, tell me if I'm wrong, but isn't the evidence that anybody has at this point is like footprints and then like sounds that they can't identify from the woods?
Yeah, that's the majority of the evidence that's been collected, or eyewitness reports. The footprint castings, and of course the audio sounds, and all those are subject to they're subject to criticism, and they're subject to peer review, and a lot of people say, oh, it's just an elk or it's just a bear or whatever. So the sounds you can throw out. The footprints can be easily faked. However, some of the footprints have actually shown flexibility in the track. What I mean by that is the toes will splay. And when I'm saying splay, a cookie cutter track, if you put it down in the soft dirt or snow or whatever, it's always going to have the same shape, the same toe structure. Everything's going to be the same on it. But with a flexible foot, the toes will move, they'll splay, like your fingers will splay apart. The toes will bend, the foot will bend, and it'll adjust to the contour or the ground. If it's a hard ground, if you step on a stick, you're going to see the foot bend and change. So a lot of the scientific community is starting to get into this now, and there actually are some pretty reputable scientists getting involved who've studied these tracks, and they say, yeah, there's definitely something out there making these prints with a living foot, because these tracks are not showing that they're fake. They're showing that they're actual, something with a foot that size is leaving these prints. Right. What it is, they don't know. So well,
then I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's
if
right.
It's interdimensional, I mean, would it make a print like that? That's just,
well, if it is,
says no.
If it is interdimensional, that doesn't mean it's not a physical being. If it's an interdimensional being, it could be coming from another dimension as a physical being, transporting from that dimension to our dimension as a physical being and leaving physical traces here in our world. And if it is, let's say for argument's sake that it is an interdimensional being, when it returns back to its world, it's going to be in that plane, no longer in our plane, but this physical evidence from it being here is still going to remain. So when you find footprints
on that side, I mean, it could be like a whole on whatever dimensional frequency it's on. It can be its own, like have family, and there's a lot more of them, right?
And that's something we don't really know. I mean, there have been sightings and reports of families seen of these things, a male, a female, and offspring. There's been several over the years that have been documented. So we know that it does have a family unit, or it has been seen in a family unit. And in order for this animal to survive, there has to be a viable breeding population, because the stories of this animal date back, like I said, hundreds, if not thousands of years. And there's no way this animal is going to be thousands of years old. So there has to be some kind of viable breeding population in order to survive up to modern day.
Right. We have a question. Someone asked, has anyone ever been hurt by a Bigfoot?
There are stories passed down through the generations. There's several that are classic stories, Bigfoot stories, that have talked about Bigfoot attacking people. Like our former president, Teddy Roosevelt, wrote about an encounter in his book, Wilderness Hunter. In the 1850s, there was a trapper named Bauman. He and his trapping partner went into an area in the southern Idaho mountains, and they claimed they were attacked by a Bigfoot, or not a Bigfoot at the time, but a wild man. And Bauman claims that this creature killed his trapping partner, broke his neck. When he discovered the body, he found large fang marks in the neck. The neck was broken, and he found these large human-like footprints all around the body. So when he shared his tale with Teddy Roosevelt, Roosevelt was so captivated and enthralled by the story, he actually included it in his book, Wilderness Hunter. And there's been other reports, like in 1924, for example, Fred Beck and a prospecting crew were in what's now known as Ape Canyon in Mount St. Helens in the early 1920s, and they were prospecting. And he claims that they had several encounters with these wild men. He called them mountain devils. And he claims he shot at them. Some of the other prospectors shot at them, and they actually survived a raid on their cabin by several of these large mountain devils that fit the description of Bigfoot, that tried to break in through the door, break in through the walls. They rained boulders down on the roof of the shack from the cliff above, and they claimed that they were attacked by these race of huge human-like hair-covered creatures. And over the years, there have been other reports of people attacking these, having been attacked or shooting at a Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot comes after them. So unfortunately, no one that I know of has ever been killed or attacked recently. I've heard of bluff charges being done against other researchers, and that's a typical primate behavior. But there are some stories, but they're mostly older stories that have come out.
I was gonna say, isn't it from like the 1800s? Weren't there some Indian stories about them coming to take their women?
Mm-hmm.
Like they would take the women, and they think that that's maybe how they multiplied or how they were going to procreate, I guess.
Yeah, there's some stories from the Pacific Northwest of they called the creature a buqua, and supposedly this female buqua was a large giant that carried a basket, and it came into the tribe at night, into their little village, and any females or children that were out after dark, the buqua would kidnap them, put them in the basket, take them off to its cave and eat them. So it was kind of like a boogeyman story. They told the kids and the wives, the women, stay inside at night or else the buqua will come get you. So there are stories like that. Like here in Pennsylvania and in Western New York, the Iroquois Seneca Nation had battles with these creatures they called the Genisqua. And the Genisqua was this large hair-covered creature that would often get into conflicts with, they were thought to be cannibalistic as well, and would often get into conflicts with the tribe's members. And when they would shoot arrows, the arrows would literally hit the hide of the creature and bounce off.
Yeah.
Genisqua actually translates into stone giant, because that's what they equated these hair-covered creatures as they were made of. They had stone as thick as rock, or stone, or a hide as thick as stone, and the arrows would bounce off, and that's why they called them the Genisqua or stone giant. So there's a lot of Native American stories that talk about having really bad relationships with the Bigfoot or wild man creatures of the forest. They weren't pleasant encounters.
Ooh. Eric, do you have any evidence that you'd like to show us? Show our viewers, if you want to share with anything. I think I have you set up to share, I think.
Well, I'd be happy to, but right now all I'm seeing is a sign in front of me that says Zoom join a meeting, and it has a little numbers. So I can't see you ladies talking.
Oh boy.
So I somehow got booted out of the whole meeting thing. So I can hear you, and you can obviously hear me, but I can't see what's going on here.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Because we have the picture of you on our side.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe my screen just vanished. I don't know. But.
Did you try going to the top, like your arrow all the way at the top of your computer, and it will give you like galleries view or anything like that?
I got arrows at the top, and if I hit the arrow back, it takes me back to Facebook where I got the message to log in. So I don't want to lose you, ladies.
But at the bottom where it says stop video, if you click, there's a bottom toolbar. There should be mute, and then it says stop video.
Let me see.
At the bottom.
The only thing I see in front of me, it says join a meeting. I put the meeting 7-digit number in. It says join, and then join a meeting from H.323 SIP room system. So I don't see anything at the bottom.
I'm going to try to spotlight his video, ladies, and see if that, does that change your view any?
I
if
see
I spotlight.
Something popped up that said the host has spotlighted your video, but that's all I see.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I got another box that popped up that says sign in, enter your email, password, sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook. So I mean, I can try logging in again, see if that works.
Yeah,
Sign in Google.
Yeah, I would.
Why don't you try to sign in again? Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, and if it kicks you out, just come right back in.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, he's gone now. Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, we can fill the space while you're doing it.
Goodness, we can talk days.
It's fascinating, the information. That,
Oh, there you are. Hey, you just popped
Absolutely.
up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There you
There you
go.
are.
Good.
All right, cool.
Yay. Okay, so you should be able to share your screen and share whatever evidence you'd like to share with
Because
us.
I know you
Live.
had some stuff from Gettysburg and Greencastle, if I'm not mistaken, when we were at Pennhurst. And I think some other places close to here.
Greencastle?
Goosies. Well, we have a viewer. Her name's Judy. She's like, hello, great to join you. Very interesting. She loves this topic. So I'm glad that she's watching with us. We have a lot of viewers. Please feel free to comment below and ask questions. I mean, anything that you have questions about, the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, however you know, whatever you call them, Yeti, ask. We have, for the people that are just viewing and tuning in, we have a professional Bigfoot researcher. Been doing this for, what'd you say, 22 years, Eric?
Yeah, long time.
22 years. So this is a ball of knowledge here, guys. His name is Eric Altman. You can always check out his webpage as well. I think it's ericaltman.org or .com. .net.
Yeah.
So check him out. Check him out on Facebook, guys. Interesting guy. I went from like being a Bigfoot, schmigfoot to now I'm really fascinated about it. You know, I have somebody here that I can actually ask questions to. Is, in my opinion, I thought, well, it probably is a tulpa, which is a manifestation of energy that's created. And then when he said about the interdimensional thing, I'm like, I'm a little bit more a believer of that than I am a primate, you know, kind of feel, because I would find bones. Interdimensional, you don't find stuff like that, right? So please ask question, guys. What do we got here? Has Bigfoot been seen in Bath County, Virginia? Bath County, Virginia.
I'm sure he has. I don't have any reports myself from that area, although I'm good friends with several researchers in Virginia, and I've done some field work in Virginia myself, in the southwestern corner of the state. About probably 2010 or 11, I was down there for a week. I don't know the history of what's going on in Virginia itself, but I know they have a Sasquatch Watch of Virginia group that they do Bigfoot research, and they have a Virginia Bigfoot conference every year. So there probably are sightings in Bath County.
That's the one I wanted to go to, Tracy.
Okay.
Heather asked that question. Heather, if you're listening right now, have you had any experiences that prompted you to ask that question? Has anyone that's viewing had an experience of some of the things that are typical for a Bigfoot encounter? So please comment that below. But Heather, have you had any experiences to make you ask that question? I'm curious to know. I've never had any encounters or contact. I live in the country. I'm from the podunk little town of Ladysburg, Maryland, which is this literally 2 miles long. And the only thing we had was snallygasters. So, and I was scared to death. Don't laugh, Eric, because I was scared to death of that thing. My grandma and my dad used to tell me, if you're not quiet while we're fishing, the snallygasters will come and get you. So
and you don't want to, and Sharon, you don't want to go snipe hunting.
No.
What in the heck is happening? So I never had any encounters with, you know, I've watched videos and I've listened to the screams and the banging of like the wood and the stone bangings and stuff. And I don't think I've ever had any experiences with them. And that saddens me because I've had a lot of different experiences in my life. You know?
The question I had, Eric, was on average, how many sightings do you get in Pennsylvania? And like, where would be the closest to us?
We get a lot of reports in throughout the years, some more so than others. 2009 was a big year for sightings in southwestern Pennsylvania. The early 2000s, 2001, there was a lot of activity in Caledonia, Nishaw State Forest. I'm trying to think of the actual year. There was some large humanoid tracks around, I believe it was the Waynesboro Reservoir, if I'm not mistaken.
What?
Yeah, in 2000, 2001. Yeah, there was some very large tracks.
Waynesboro. I'm right now. You said the reservoir in Waynesboro? Because I'll tell you, we have that was actually a question that one of our viewers said, you know, when was the last time one was seen in our area, the local area of Waynesboro and Greencastle, because that's her area. So the girls,
we going hunting.
We going Bigfoot hunting.
Because
oh wow, that would be awesome if Eric could join us on Mind's Eye Medium and do a Bigfoot hunt. That would be so cool.
The one in Waynesboro that happened, The game commission was involved. There was a huge crowd of onlookers that came out. And what was actually happened, there was a couple of young adults that went up to the reservoir, and they found over 300 tracks that walked along the shoreline of the reservoir and went off into the woods. And there was actually castings made by a gentleman named Rick Fisher. He's from Columbia, Pennsylvania. He was part of the group that I used to run called the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society. And when we got the report, I contacted Rick since he was so close, and he drove down to the reservoir and he talked with the game warden. He talked with several of the people and the eyewitnesses who found the tracks. He made plaster castings of the tracks. And there's a bunch of newspaper articles. I still have them myself on somewhere. But yeah, that actually happened in 2001, I believe it was.
Wow.
Cool.
So that same woman that asked about the Waynesboro area, Greencastle, she said, my husband swears that he saw one up on the power lines area in South Mountain. And that's like right up the hill from me. So you guys need to come to my area because I'm in Waynesboro. So, but I'll tell you, you remember that girl Heather asked about Bath, Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
She said, my grandmother was born there, so I visited a lot. But when I was 14, I went bear hunting and saw something out of the corner of my eye that was huge, like bigger than a bear. And I had a feeling that it could be one. So look, I am fascinated. So I'm going to be picking up some people. Eric, I will come up if I have to, up to PA, and pick you up and bring you down here. But this is Waynesboro Reservoir? That's like there.
Yeah.
You know, that's interesting.
Where is Bath County? I'm looking on the map. It's like Monongahela. Did I say that right? National Forest near Shenandoah National Park. Oh, near Harrisburg.
Yeah, it's not too.
Harrisonburg. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I can't think of the name of the county. It's in northwestern Maryland, and I have good friends, the Wingards, who live there. And there's a Bigfoot researcher by the name of Bob Chance, who has done a lot of research in the 70s and 80s in York, Pennsylvania, York County, and in northwestern Maryland. And I can't think of the name. It's a haunted campground. They what's it called? I've been there and I've done lectures at it, but it's in northwestern Maryland. And I apologize, the name just escapes me, but there's been a lot of sightings in that section of the state, a lot.
So, wow. You know, we deal with the paranormal every day, don't we, girls? You know, that's something that we're like, that's our thing, you know, always explaining the paranormal, you know, always coming up with evidence and trying to explain it and trying to debunk it. Because, you know, we're all about, is it real? Is it not real? So we're sort of like you, Eric, when you come to Bigfoot. You said, I'm kind of skeptic, you know, I'm you know, I research it, but I'm kind of skeptic about what it is. You know,
right.
We're kind of the same way until we get into, you know, a situation where we can actually feel the energy and stuff. So when you were out researching, when you go researching, are you going to the sites that there was spot, like they actually had a sighting? Or how do you feel if you do go out to these areas? What are some of the feelings? Does it feel eerie? Does it feel different? You know,
well,
it's
it's kind of hard to describe because each place is different.
Okay.
I'm a proactive researcher and I'm a reactive researcher. And what that means is if we get a sighting report from an area, I want to go investigate it. I want to talk to the witnesses. I want to look at the area for physical signs of evidence. And it's important, it's key to get there as quickly as possible, because unlike hauntings, if it's a residual haunting, it may occur, you know, on and on and on. And there still may be phenomenon to be found when you go there. With a Bigfoot sighting, you're dealing with weather, you're dealing with environment, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with animals. So the evidence could be destroyed or damaged or, you know, it wiped away. So it's very key to get to that location as quickly as possible to find evidence. So I'm reacting in that aspect. When I get a report, I want to get right to that location and see if there's evidence. And I want to talk to the eyewitness in that location so they can point out we had their sighting. make observations, I can make measurements, and we can try to determine exactly how this creature was, how big it was, and exactly what they saw. But I'm also proactive in that I don't wait for sightings to come in. I go out multiple times a year to different locations that I know have histories of sightings, and I go out and I camp, or we hike, or we do night outings in those areas to see if we can draw the creatures in, and we do that by vocalizations, animal calls, wood knocking, rock clacking, that sort of thing. We want to try to draw their attention and bring them in, because researchers have that, again, speculating, that theory that they do wood on trees, and they knock wood on other pieces of wood to communicate with each other. So if we do that, we're hoping to get a response from them, which will draw them in, more like a curiosity thing. So
and when you say we, do you have a team like we have our team here, the four of us plus our significant others? Do you have a set team? Is that just you and your significant other, or whatever?
Well, I've run several different groups, and I've been part of several different groups. I'm a member of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, which is the largest national organization of researchers in the country. For 14 years, I ran a group called the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society, where we had members from all over the state of Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York, West Virginia, the surrounding states. And we had research teams that we would go out and investigate cases. And we'd also do the proactive stuff. And now I founded, and I'm the president or director, I guess you call it, of the Pennsylvania Cryptozoology Society, where we have investigators, researchers, team members, where if we have, and again, not necessarily just a Bigfoot encounter, but any kind of strange animal sighting or experience, we go out and investigate that. So when we do go out, yeah, it's very rare that I go out by myself. I usually go out with a partner, a research member, a team member, or in small groups. We don't like to go out in a huge group, because if you go out with a huge group, chances are everybody's going to be talking, making noise, and you're not going to have any success. So we go out in a small group of maybe 4 to 5 people at most when we go out.
I'd like to know, because I know nothing about Bigfoot, and I live in the country. And when you said about going out and investigating, I'm thinking you could come to my backyard, because when I'm out on my back porch, sometimes I hear a wookalar. That's what I call it, because I don't know what it is.
A what?
I call it a wookalar because I don't know what it is. It
Might be
just
those
makes
frogs
a very
out there.
strange sound. But I'd love to see like evidence that you've collected. I don't know why. I just want to see it,
This girl said here, Jim Campbell commented that there's a person, a friend of his, that he's trying to get to share noise he caught on a trail, right? And Heather was saying about Bath County is close to Covington, Virginia, that kind of thing. And then Jimmy says, this is so interesting, guys. I am like floored. Heather, I'm trying to get my cousin to share the noise because he lives in that Covington.
Oh, Covington, yeah.
Covington, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
So we got some, right. And so we got a girl that said that she caught something out of her eye, right, in that county, in Virginia. Then we have another person who said they caught something on their trail cam. This is, look, we might have you a new piece of research, Eric. I mean, like you're not busy already, right?
Well, I get, gosh, I can't even tell you how many emails and video files and pictures sent to me on a weekly basis. I get so many. I look at, and it's understandable. People don't they're not understanding what they're seeing or hearing, and they're not able to identify it. So they think, maybe it's a Bigfoot, and they send it to me, and I look at it, and I share it with other researchers or other experienced investigators, and we look at it, and we can usually rule out, it being a Bigfoot. So 90% of what's captured on camera or on audio can be ruled out. It's the 10% that's fascinating.
From Sherry Smith. She says, hi guys, fascinating topic. I was camping in Caledonia State Park about 15 years ago. We were fishing at the dam that had since been drained. It was after midnight and no one was around, and we heard a long scream. It started low pitch and then escalated into a high pitched scream. It lasted longer than a normal scream. We heard the hair on our arms stood up and our neck. Someone asked, what was that? And I jokingly said, Bigfoot, but we got out of there fast.
Now she wonders.
Now she knows, because sightings around there, obviously.
Yeah, because you said about Caledonia, Eric. So now she's wondering.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, around 2005, 2006, there were a lot of sightings at the Caledonia Park. We received many cases up in that area. We actually did a couple field investigations up over a weekend period in Caledonia, camping and exploring the woods. Never found anything or had anything happen to us, but we continue to get reports from there.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Did
if
you
you
have
ladies
any-
want, I can try sharing some footprints that were found in the wild, and maybe see what you ladies think of them. Let me see if I can.
Absolutely. I'm so excited.
Let me
Give me
see
a
these
second.
bad boys. Because you
Way
see
too
stuff
many bad
every, you know what? I just thought, you know how every picture that we see of
I
Bigfoot
was just thinking.
all blurry? It's like blurry. Think about if it's interdimensional. If it is interdimensional, God, look, you can tell that we don't think alike and those two think alike. So if it's interdimensional, it would look blurry because it wouldn't be fully on either plane.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
Man, you guys got me having a lot of things going through my head. I'm never going to sleep tonight.
But I'm also thinking, Sharon, on that same line, we get a lot of our intuition, whatever our feelings about things from pictures. So that's why I can't wait to see this evidence.
This
Yeah,
is
I'll share a couple pictures of some tracks that were found just right after a sighting had happened. This was in 2007 in Westmoreland County, a small town called Latrobe, Pennsylvania. And there was an 11-year-old boy who was out playing in his backyard, and he heard some noises in the brush and looked over and saw what he described to us as a very tall, shaggy, grayish colored hairy creature standing in the brush. And they had a face-to-face encounter. The creature took off towards the Loyal Hannah Creek and disappeared. When we received the call on it, I had sent out a couple of my investigators. I was at work at the time, and 3 field investigators went out and they found tracks. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make castings of them. They got some photographs of these prints. And let me see if I can pull them up here. Do I just click on the share screen? Or how do I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just click on the share
So-
screen and then it'll go to what you wanted to share. And then
Okay.
you just click yes.
So let me pull this up here and see if I can get this to work.
There
my
you
gosh,
go.
I am so excited over this. You guys have no idea.
Yep.
But you're right,
This is
Tracy.
so
We get a
cool.
lot on
We
pictures.
get a lot on pictures. So I'm like, are we going to be able to say, oh no, that was a bear? You know, that's what I-
Tracy B, do you remember the Bigfoot we thought we saw? And it was a house.
Oh, I was like, what? Why didn't you tell us about this?
It was dark. It was a house.
But yeah, we were joking.
But it's true. Every Bigfoot picture I've ever, have ever seen. Oh, look at that.
This is the track, one of the tracks that was found at the Waynesboro Reservoir. I'll show you this real quick if it comes up.
We're going, girls.
I'm hoping it comes up.
We're going.
Did-
Get this COVID over with so we
There.
can get out.
Can you see that? It's kind of
No,
small.
we're seeing your files right now.
Yeah, it didn't-
Okay,
it
that's
didn't
as
click
large as
through.
it gets. That picture
Oh,
there.
are you talking about 13312599689?
Yeah.
That should be showing the picture there because I clicked on
Can you
it.
double click it? It'll make it bigger if you double click on it.
Yeah, I did. And it pulls
Oh.
up a white screen that shows it there. I'm not sure if you can
Oh.
see that or not.
When you go into your share, you need to share like your entire thing. Hold on.
Yeah, you can see the menu, the different.
Oh yeah, we can see.
Right,
I can see
right.
the rings, yeah.
Yeah, this one here, I double clicked on it to launch it, and it shows me on a white screen, but it doesn't show. I don't know why it's not showing you ladies that picture.
Well, we can see it. We can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
It's just small. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. It's
That's all it
deep.
does.
It's so
How
deep.
deep?
Yeah.
How deep is that? Like 5 inches or what?
Yeah, 300 of these were found around the edge of the reservoir, and the water had receded and it was pretty muddy. So a lot of these were pretty deep in the mud. And I actually have a picture from one of the news reports of the game warden actually going into the reservoir trying to follow the tracks. He sunk up to his knees. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, they were
Oh,
pretty.
wow.
Hold on.
So,
So it's heavy enough to make or foot,
yeah.
but it doesn't sink like the officer.
It walked around the edge of the
Oh,
reservoir.
the edge.
Yeah, and we were thinking it did at night, so the ground was a lot harder. And it wasn't warm because during the day it warmed up and that ground become much softer. And when the game warden walked, he sunk literally up to his knees. So
Wow.
I'm trying to get this to work for you ladies, and it's just not cooperating. I'm not sure
Can you
why.
click on it on your side and make it big and then share it?
That's okay.
It's fascinating though, the stuff that he's got.
Yeah, I've got so many
much
pictures of. And I wanted to show you the pictures of the footprints. Let me try this again. Share screen.
Yeah, if you make it big.
Yeah, when you go to share screen, it actually asks you if you want to share like Google, or if you want to share your actual whole desktop, or if you want to share an individual program.
Yeah, I see.
Are you using it on a laptop?
Yeah, I see basic, advanced, and files. And then it gives me a couple different screens. Let me just click share. See what it does.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything.
Well, that's your whole screen.
Yeah, I don't want to go there.
Click it. I was gonna say you can click a new window.
Yeah.
So open it up.
Let's see if I can get some of these pictures.
So
to run.
interesting to me.
This is so cool.
Fascinating.
Some of the
But
pictures.
some of his evidence was just amazing to look at. And he had casts with him when we saw him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it to be right in my backyard. I live not but 10 miles from this Waynesboro reservoir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
Heather said, she says, I see things a lot. I just let the sounds and the sights do their things and not question. I believe all of it's true. Bigfoot, spirits, all of it.
and she also says she gets a weird vibe when she's at her grandmother's woods up there in Bath County, Virginia. So that's why I asked you, Eric, if you got like weird feelings or if, you know.
Can you see
Are
that?
you-
Oh, wow.
That was found
Oh.
in 2007 by our research crew who went out there just before it started storming. There were several
Wow.
prints found at that location. That's one of
How
them.
long are they?
That's 13 inches long.
Wow. Okay.
And let me show you a couple of the other ones.
Wow.
You know, I've been watching Forensic Files. I know they're old school, but, you know, I'm bored. And they said how they can cast footprints and can, like, you know, find killers and stuff like that if they're in their bare feet. Why don't, like, the science people really get involved in this, Eric, and help figure this out? You know, let's make cast of them. Let's, you know, do, instead of fingerprinting, toe printing, you know, and stuff like that, and just making a database of this kind of stuff.
Well,
What's
that's what the amateur researchers are doing.
Oh,
They're making the plaster casts so they can be compared. And there is a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Chilcutt, and he is a fingerprint expert, an analyst expert, I guess you call it. He analyzes fingerprints, and he works for the FBI. And he also examines fingerprints, and he's collected fingerprints and footprints from, or I should say toe prints from over 200 different species of primate. And in 2001, I think it was, or 2002, he was watching a show, and they had a professor on the show, Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, who was showing plaster casts. And he was showing the cast, and this Jimmy Chilcutt guy who works with the FBI, and he's a forensics specialist, saw these footprint casts and said, those look like dermal ridges. Now, if you look at your hands, you can see on your hands, you have dermal ridges. Those are the lines on your hands with your fingerprints. They run, you see you have different ley lines across your finger and hands. You have the same thing on the bottom of your feet. Primates have them as well. And when he looked at those casts, sure enough, he could see these dermal ridges on the casts. They were picked up from the ground when the casts were made. So it actually captured these dermal ridges of a living foot. So he's convinced that Bigfoot is real due to catching these actual dermal ridges.
Well, see, that's what I was saying about this first 48 hour or forensic files I was watching about making these, like everybody's fingerprint. Everybody has different fingerprints, just like everybody has different toe prints and stuff. So I'm really glad that the science community, there is somebody in that science community that's kind of collecting all this evidence.
Judy
We have
Campbell asked, sorry, Judy Campbell asked, how big is the biggest footprint you've ever caught or has been ever caught? Wow, look at the size of that
The
one.
one right there is actually the largest footprint cast I've ever made. That's 19 inches long.
Wow.
Oh
I wear a
my
size
Lord.
13. I wear a size 13 boot, and that's 19 inches long by I think it's 7 inches wide at the heel, almost 8 inches wide.
Pete, that's huge.
Wow.
We found that at a sighting location. A mother and daughter saw a creature crossing a power line, and I think I have actually a picture, an artist's rendition of what she saw. Let me see. This is the power line that they saw the creature cross from left to right,
Wow.
across the left to right there. And when they saw it the day before, they called us that evening and said, "This is what we just saw." Our research team went out and investigated. I went into the woods on the right-hand side to look for tracks, and I found one print in a river, a dried up riverbed, but it was still muddy enough that I could see it was a print. And I made that cast, and it was 19 inches long.
Now, somebody else, one of our viewers, said about seeing Bigfoot up at the power line up here in South Mountain. So that's interesting. Is there? I mean, has there ever, in 22 years, other than that sighting at a power line and the one? Well, our viewer said that they swore they saw one. Is that common to be around power lines?
We think so. We think they use it as a kind of a highway to travel from place to place. And it's easy access for deer because deer travel that. So they use it as kind of like a feeding ground or hunting ground where they can hide in the side of the one side of the power line and jump out on the deer and take them back in the woods. Plus, if they're using it.
I'm lit up. I have so much energy right now about that because I don't know. That just goes to my spiritual mind. I'm in spiritual mind mode now because I'm like power lines. They're following the power lines, the energy. Yeah, it's the deer. That's their feeding. That's guaranteed feeding. But I'm thinking too. The power lines are filled with energy. A lot of high EMFs. Easier maybe for interdimensional traveling.
Yeah, the picture I'm showing now is actually the footprint that I found in the ground. And I made the casting of it. That's a 19-inch print.
Wow.
What in the world? That's 16 inches.
Wow.
It's not
Judy
a very clearly
also
defined
asked,
print, but you get the idea.
Judy also asked, when you find those prints, I'm sure you look for hair and everything. Have you ever found any hair associated with the footprints?
Not with footprints, but we found hair on different occasions that we've actually let me see if I can find a quick picture to show you one of the hairs we found. We had this is actually took place in Clearfield County in central Pennsylvania in 2009. And let me see if I can find it. I lost the screen. We had a sighting up there and we went to investigate and we followed a trail down through the woods. It was actually a pretty well mowed trail. And we followed it down through the woods and got to a point where we came to a clearing. And we got into the clearing, we found pine trees that were broken. They were snapped off at the very top. And I think this is actually the pictures.
Did you ever get it analyzed?
Yeah, we sent it off to Dr. Meldrum at Idaho State University, and he looked at it and he couldn't identify it. He said possibly it was bear hair, but it was so degraded. Here's some of the pine trees we found that were snapped right at there, about 5-6 feet off the ground.
Wow.
Try doing something here. It'll work. I don't know if it will or not.
Just snap,
Yeah, we're looking at the trees. You can see how they're snapped at the top. And not all the branches were snapped. There it is. Did you
Oh,
see it?
wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Let me go back and look, get it. Hang on.
Yeah, you can see it.
There you go.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
That was found
Oh,
at one of the
wow.
branch. That was found at one of the branch breaks. Very long strands of hair. So we collected it. I used non-powdered latex gloves, sterilized tweezers, and we put it in sterilized envelopes and sent it off to Dr. Meldrum to look at.
Did they?
Wow.
I mean, could they do a DNA off of that? Like,
He said the hairs were too badly degraded to do any DNA testing off of. I'm trying to find more of those pictures.
that sucks. I mean, that would be perfect.
I have a question. If the hair's too well degraded and they say it is, could they be keeping that from you that they could have identified it?
I've known Dr. Meldrum really well for the last couple of years, and I don't think he was doing that
Okay.
on purpose.
Right. Well, I wasn't saying he might be doing it on purpose.
Yeah,
but
I don't
doing
know.
that.
It's hard to say. Trying to find some more pictures of this tree.
Yeah,
The
that's
trees that were snapped.
fascinating.
Yeah, they're not enough.
They just snap them like twigs.
We
Right.
think they're territorial markers, kind of like a warning for other creatures or other animals to stay out of the area. Yeah, here we go.
That is so interesting. Like, just let me tear down a tree. You know, like that's wow. Look
Wow.
at that.
Snapped.
Yeah, it was actually
Wow.
snapped here. It snapped in the middle and then snapped towards the top and broken. And there, of course, you can see some of the hair that was left on the branch.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my
That's so
god.
cool.
And we found a dead deer not too far away. So
Oh,
Was
poor
he,
guy.
was the deer, why was the deer dead?
somebody shot it with an
It was
arrow.
shot.
Never
Okay.
collected
Yeah, you
it.
could dig
But
a hole.
this was so fascinating to us. You can see we're taking pictures of it and stuff. We called one of our team members who is a wildlife biologist from the state of Indiana, and he made the trip from Indiana. There he is there looking at the breaks of the trees. We brought him down to take a look at it. He was really fascinated by it.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
And it's high up.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like down here where just like a person could be walking by and go snap. You know, this
Right.
is hot.
Hi.
Was that a whole dang tree that was knocked down?
Yeah, this tree here was actually pushed over and it was uprooted. You can see the roots where it was pushed out of the ground.
Uh-huh.
I mean, what can do that? What other animal could do that, really?
Something with a lot of strength.
Right.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's just some of the examples of some of the things we found over the years, as far as hair goes and different types of evidence.
So bloody fascinating. I just can't right now.
There's I have so many pictures and so many folders of cases we worked on, and
I just have too many questions. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, it's like the ultimate thing. It just keeps leading to more and more questions.
yeah, it does.
Right.
And it does for
What
me
it-
because I've been in this for a long time and I still don't have answers yet.
I was gonna say, what is your favorite piece of evidence so far that you have?
Gosh, I think the footprint cast I'm pretty stoked about.
Well, yeah.
Those are pretty exciting. Here's an interesting case I'll share with you real quick. In 2016, there was a gentleman who lives in the house across the street from this abandoned house here, and he saw an upright hair-covered creature standing in the opening between the two trees there. And
I don't know. I'm lit up when I look at this. I'm sorry, Eric. I don't mean to disrespect you
Oh,
by
that's okay.
doing it, but I am this, like Tracy said, when it comes to pictures, I get a lot of things off of it.
Mhm.
And this right here lights me up. As in Tracy Bambrick's words, I'm lit up all over. Okay. When you said about, and you put your arrow up there and I looked
As soon as,
right there,
Mhm.
Yeah, right here.
definitely something there,
Oh,
Eric. Definitely something there. And I feel like they're attracted to this house. And this is just, I know you didn't ask for my opinion, but they're attracted to this house. Whatever animal or Bigfoot is attracted to this house, they must set garbage out too, because I feel like they like some of the food that's set out. I don't know why I'm saying that, but yeah.
This house here is abandoned.
It's abandoned, but I'm
Nobody
thinking
lives in
that
this house, but the
But
people across the
one point,
street have a lot of activity going on their property.
There it
I'm
is.
thinking,
Wow.
okay, so I'm thinking whoever used to live in this house actually fed animals out on that hillside.
That's possible. This
Like
is
that's, when you have like leftovers and whatnot,
Mhm.
you just throw it out back.
So the
When you live in the country,
activity, a neighbor's. Okay,
across the
they're
street.
fascinated with the family. They're
Mhm.
whatever that animal is, or if it is Bigfoot, which it probably is, it's a lot of fascination with that family.
Yeah, they've had a lot of activity going on the property for a long time. And one thing they shared with us that we found quite fascinating was the couple, husband and wife, would be sitting out on their front porch, and this is the woods behind their home. And they would hear humongous branch breaks. We're talking trees falling over, branches breaking, and there's no wind, there's no storms, there's nothing that would cause the branches to break, unless, of course, the trees were dry rotted. But they would hear this all the time, and they'd go back and look, but would never see anything. So when they called us to investigate, of course, the homeowner wanted us to see the property and see the woods behind his house. And he showed us some of these branch breaks that he found. And these are just absolutely amazing. There's one of them there.
That's
Gosh.
on the side of the tree there.
That branch was actually 12 feet off the ground.
See,
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
they're pulling side of trees off.
Tree. Yeah.
Right. And you can see the tree is not dry rotted. It's a healthy
Wow.
living tree.
Yeah.
Mm.
And what we believe, or what we think is going on here, is they're trying to intimidate the family to leave the area. So they're going through the woods and making destruction to the trees, showing them their strength and their power, saying, we don't want you here, time to go. And if you don't go, this is what can happen to you. So he began to show us these trees, and we were kind of perplexed by that. But there's also other trees that we found. We found a whole tree that was actually broken off, another tree that was snapped. It's all over the forest behind his home, as you can see. There's no wind damage. There's no sign of lightning damage done to the tree. They're just snapped in half. And
Wow.
whoever did that had to have tremendous strength.
So that's the fascination. When I feel like they're fascinated with this family, you know what I mean? It's more of, yeah, I'm fixated on you guys, but get the hell out.
And you, Sharon, you keep saying they. I'm picking up two.
Oh, I think there's more than one creature here.
Has there ever been, Eric, has there ever been like evidence or someone saying and they saw two of them at the same time?
Well, they think there's more than one animal on the property, because the husband saw the creature between the bushes at that abandoned house in 2013 or 2016, excuse me. And the wife has heard what she believed was a female creature that was across the road near that same abandoned house in the bushes that was making monkey chatter. And she could hear it. She's never heard anything like it before, but almost like it was trying to intimidate her to go back in the house. And this goes on constantly. Their dogs get harassed. The dogs are terrified to go outside. This is actually an interesting picture. If you see the tree here that's coming down across at this angle, this was broken. It was turned upside down where the leaves part of the tree was placed on a pathway from the family's backyard into the forest, like it was trying to block them from going into the forest.
What?
I'll show you this.
Wow.
So while you're finding the picture, Eric, have you ever thought about bringing in people that are readers, energy readers, like people like us that, can communicate and feel energies and get stuff? Have you ever thought about including that piece?
We've never used mediums or clairvoyance, anything like that. We haven't used that. One of the members of our team was a medium, and she used to go on research with her husband, but she's never picked up on anything. I don't think she really was ever attuned to it. I'm trying to pick up on it, but we've never taken anybody out in the field. I'd be interested to see what the reaction was and what was picked up.
Yeah.
I would love that, because
Love to do that.
as soon as you showed that picture, I got that fixation feeling. Tracy got the feeling of more.
There. Yeah.
Yeah. And, feeling those feelings, and now coming to find out, yes, the family, has had several problems, and, so it is that fixation with that. So this is so flipping
Energy
fascinating.
is energy.
look how tall that tree is that they knocked
Yeah.
down. Like, how they get up there? Climb? I mean,
Well,
They're tall.
if they are truly primates, they should be easily able to climb a tree. But as you notice in this picture, this is where the break is, and this is where the leaves and the smaller branches are. And it's actually blocking a pathway here for them to get back further into the woods.
Yeah.
And here's if I can find it. Yeah, there's the pathway goes through here, and this was actually pulled down. And we thought, okay, well, maybe that just happened, happenstance. It's a coincidence. Well, as he went on to show us, we found another area in the woods, if I can find it here, where another branch, I think it's further back, another branch was actually pulled down and blocking a different pathway going into the forest. So it was almost like they didn't want them back there in their territory.
Right.
It's like they wanted to shut the door to the forest, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep them back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the branch here that I was referring to. This was actually pulled down over another pathway.
Wow.
But I want to show you, ladies, something that I
That's
found
bizarre.
fascinating and see if you pick up on this here. Give me a second.
okay. I like stuff like this. Challenge me, Eric.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, give me a
Love
second here.
I'm just fascinated that
All
they're
right.
so high up. And if these things are like, what do you estimate them the size of? Like, 9 feet tall, 10 feet tall? What do you?
On average, 7.5 feet, but there have been reports of them getting 10 to 12 feet in height for some of the more massive ones. Around Pennsylvania, the East Coast, they're usually 7 to 8 feet tall.
And
But-
they climb trees like these. I mean, they're
That's what it's thought. Yeah.
They'd have to.
Now, if you're looking at this picture here, tell me what you see in the background.
well, there's something right down there in the bottom.
What do you see right
Yeah.
here?
A pole.
A big pole.
That's a
Looks like
power
a what?
line.
That's a
Oh, that's a power line.
That's a power line.
There you go.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what I was pointing out, even though you can't see me because you can't, I'm not sharing nothing, but I'm not going to lie. I did not picture out that power line, but I was on that side and said, I seen something there, but it was like an outline image. So
Yeah.
if that's a power lines can absorb energy and images and you
Right.
can see them afterwards. It almost,
ladies. Do you see to the
Yeah.
left in this
Yeah.
picture, to the left
Yeah.
of the big tree that's next to the power line? Do you see like
Yeah.
the cloud?
oh my
I
God,
even see that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you see it, Eric?
I don't.
Okay, on the left of the tree, right above where like the
Center
bushes
tree.
are at the bottom.
Right where your area is the center tree. Now go to the other side of the tree. Towards
And
the
down,
Down a little
right
bit.
down,
Right
right
there.
there.
Right
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
That's possibly a cloud, yeah.
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 That's something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But one thing we find really strange, and I've been working with the researcher who's been doing this for 65 years. He's my mentor, and I've known him for about 40 years. And one thing that he and I have actually noticed, a lot of the cases we've investigated over the last 15 or 20 years, all of them have happened around power sources or water sources.
Ooh.
So
Conductors of energy.
Yep,
cell phone
conductors.
towers, power lines, gas well lines, water sources, anything that has to do with electricity, whether it's a water source conducting electricity or a power line, that's what we're finding. That's what we're finding.
That's what they need. As soon as he said that, and I'm sitting here in Florida, and it must be like 900 degrees here because I haven't been cold the whole time I've been here. And I just literally got chills when he said every instance was near power lines.
Right.
So that's the key. The power line is the key.
Earlier. That's
Yeah.
earlier. And following the power lines because that can help fuse energy. It's a conductor of energy. Water, conductor of energy.
Mhm.
Anything that can be an energy producer. That's why when he said at the beginning, I don't know we'll even know what time it is, but at the beginning when he said, some people believe that it might be an interdimensional thing, blah, blah, blah. That resonated with me because energy, conductor, and I seen in between the power line and the tree, I was seeing that cloudy figure like you guys saw on the left side of the tree. Do you see what I mean? So if it can pick up and keep energy there, it's just a constant like woo, 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 woo. Maybe that's even a barrier for them.
It could be.
I don't know. I'm fascinated. You got me hooked. I'm hooked.
There was a sighting on this road in 2017, about 11:30 at night. A guy was driving on the right-hand lane, and as he come towards this bend, he saw somebody walking down the middle of the roadway. So he slowed down, put his high beams on, and he saw that it wasn't a person. It was actually a hair-covered creature walking down the road. So he went around it over here in the other lane and slowed down a little bit to get a good look at it. And as he drove off, he could see the creature's eyes reflecting the taillights as he drove off. But what's interesting about this, again, this right here is a power line.
Power line.
Yep, within maybe 75 feet of where he had his sighting at. So we're not finding it in every case, but we're finding it more and more happening.
Right. So that, oh my gosh. So maybe one of our viewers said about seeing it at the power lines up at South Mountain here in the borough. Maybe that is not coincidence. Maybe he really did see something. I never discredit anybody because what we can't see, I mean, you guys can't see the things I can see and experience. So, oh my goodness gracious. Oh my gosh.
Another example for you. This took place in Footdale, Pennsylvania in Fayette County in 2014. This guy here is a night security officer, and he travels around to the different oil wells and the different power stations. And that night in 2014, he had a sighting of a creature that was standing literally behind this gas well.
Oh my gosh.
Again, another power source. So we don't know if there's a coincidence. We don't know if there's a connection. We don't know what the connection is, but we're finding more and more of these cases where that's where it's happening. And that's
I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens for a reason. So
IEMF.
Wow.
IEMF.
Right. Wow. You have given me a lot to think about.
Wow.
I did make fun of Karen a lot about.
Yes, you did.
So did I.
I did not make fun of. It was all jokingly fun. We love each other. But
I have posters that say Bigfoot doesn't believe in you either.
Yeah. So I have to say that I can honestly say I'm kind of hooked on this, and I want to know more information. So this might become something, fascinating for me to do a little research on and stuff.
There's a lot of information out there. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad information out there too. So you have to be very careful and vet what you're reading and studying, because there's a lot of bad stuff that's put out there. But getting back to the whole power line thing, that leads into the theory of the interdimensional Bigfoot. And those people who believe in that theory believe that Bigfoot's using that energy to go from our dimension to its dimension and back and forth. That's why it's seen around a lot of those power sources. I can't validate that. I can't say that's actually what's happening, but it's a possibility. And you can't deny, especially I can't deny, that a lot of the sightings, not all of them, but a lot of the sightings that we investigate are around power sources, whether they be the gas or electric lines, the gas wells, water, bodies of water especially. So there might be something to it. We don't know at this point.
So interesting.
It's absolutely fascinating.
I am Tracy Bambrick. Great job getting this guy here. We do this every 2 weeks, Eric, and you're welcome to come as much as you want. I'm openly inviting you.
Thank you.
To come anytime you want and hang out with us crazy girls. Okay. Anytime. 2 weeks ago when she said it, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Let's do Bigfoot,
And I was like, sure.
And now I'm like, keep talking, Eric. What are you
doing? Just keep going.
Talk to me. Tell me what I need to hear, because I'm like, I'm afraid, like that kind of stuff frightens me. I'm not scared of dead people. I'm not scared of ghosts and stuff, going in, sitting in dark rooms and talking to boxes and stuff. But this kind of makes me a little nervous.
Well, sure. I mean, it's a huge hair-covered creature. If it does exist, it's much bigger than you and I, and it has a tremendous strength. I've showed some examples of what we believe it can do with trees.
Not only that, it has an intelligence about it.
It's very smart.
The evidence that has been captured is of intelligent in nature. You know,
Right.
like breaking a tree down to keep people from going on a path.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, hello, you're not coming through. Now let me break down this 45,000 foot tree. Let me shimmy up it and just chop off the top branch with my bare hands.
Yeah.
You know, have you ever, like,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm just, Tracy, I'm fascinated. I can't take it.
See, now you know why we got hooked.
Have you ever found any like demolished animals that are like, absolutely, there's no way that any
Yeah.
bear or anything could have just slaughtered this thing?
Yeah. Let me share this with you. I think you
Oh,
guys will be pretty
See,
blown
look,
away when you see this. Hang
I
on.
can't right now. I need a coffee.
Yeah, somebody asked if it was a carnivore or herbivore. If
Yeah.
there was
we
evidence of.
believe it's an omnivore, like a bear.
Uh-huh.
It'll eat whatever
Okay.
it can get its
Okay.
hands on. Mainly the diet we believe it consists of is berries, fruits, vegetation, but it's been seen carrying off deer, domesticated animals disappear. So we think that
I'm
been
going to
seen
go there.
actually going into dumpsters and picking
Well,
through
if they've
garbage.
been
So
seen eating it, has there been any evidence that it digested it and got rid of some of it? If you know where I'm going with that question.
Scat.
well, yeah, there's been scat found. Although unfortunately, usually by the time somebody finds it, they don't know how to properly handle it and get it to the correct lab. So it's usually degraded and it's usually contaminated, and there's not enough evidence. So it happens, unfortunately. Yeah, for your viewers who might be a little bit squeamish, just want to
Yeah, they
forewarn
might
you on
wanna
this
back
one.
Oh yeah, we're putting a disclaimer on this, guys. If you
Yeah,
are, turn away.
Just so you're aware, and I'll give you the backstory of this as I go through the pictures here.
Okay.
This happened on the weekend of July 4th, 2006 in Wysox, Pennsylvania, which is a little village, probably maybe 35 miles from the New York state line up in northeastern Pennsylvania. It's close to Bradford County. I'm not far from the Poconos. This family came home from a 4th of July celebration. They pulled into the driveway, and as they pulled in the driveway that night, they began to hear something in the woods. I should say some things in the woods that were having some kind of argument or contest, or they're mad at each other, but they heard screaming coming from the woods. And the father described what he heard. He said it sounded to him like King Kong was roaring in the woods behind his home. And it was coming from several different locations. So there was certain things there. We just don't know what they were. So this is the woods behind his home. He owns about 60 acres of property, and this is all public land, and it goes on for hundreds and hundreds of acres. So that night when they heard it, they didn't know what it was, but they were unnerved enough to go in the house. The next day, the kids decided to go out and to investigate to see what was going on. And before I showed the pictures of what they found, they had a friend that stayed in this mobile home here, and he'd come up and stayed for a couple of weeks. Something was coming around the mobile home early in the morning and shaking the mobile home violently.
Wait, I knew it was shaking. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It was beating on the mobile home and shaking it, and it got the guy so spooked that he left all his belongings in the mobile home and left, never came back to get them. So whatever was there, it freaked him out.
Wow.
This was prior to the July 4th incident. So on July 5th, the kids decided to go exploring in the woods to see if they could find out what was going on in the woods, if they could figure it out. And they found out. They found a dead deer that was killed, and it was actually wedged into a tree where its right front leg was wedged very securely here in the tree, and you could see where it was alive. It tried to loosen itself.
To get out.
They took pictures of the head of the animal. It looks like it was bludgeoned with some kind of large object, some kind of blunt object, and it was killed. There were no signs of arrow holes, no signs of bullet holes. The neck was broken, and it had large damage to the head. But it gets better. So this is the deer, what they found. This is the backside of the deer.
Oh my
Get out.
I said
Get
ripping.
out.
It starts ripping.
The right, you'll see the right portion of the deer taken here in a moment, but this is the right side of it, and you can see most of it is gone. That's the entire right side. It wasn't cut like a deer would, a hunter would cut or gut a deer. It was ripped apart. This is its right leg. If you see, the right leg is missing, and something ripped that leg off.
Ripped it off.
Ripped it right off.
The gut pal is here. It laid here. It was undisturbed, untouched. Nothing came and took that. It looked like it literally ripped meat off of the carcass of this deer.
Yeah, just ripped it right off. They might have been fighting over the deer.
Look, I'm a country girl. We hunt. We do all that kind of stuff. I'd never seen anything like this before in my life.
Yeah, this is a close-up of the actual tearing of the skin. If you look at it, you can see where the hair is actually torn.
Yeah.
Pulled out rather than cut.
Wow.
So they began, and this is actually our researchers, we got this report, our researchers went up a week later. The deer was still in the tree. No other animals had scavenged it. It decayed. The insects had got into it, the maggots and whatnot, were starting to break it down, but no other animal touched that deer.
No, and that's uncommon because animals.
Oh, they're scavengers. I mean,
Yeah. You can see all the maggots and everything on the carcass, but no other animal touched that deer. So when the investigators got there, they took pictures of the carcass that was still there and the remains. This is one of the footprints that the kids found very close to the carcass, to the deer. That was found, I believe it was less than 100 feet away from the deer. That's another footprint that was found.
Jeez. Look at
Leading
this
away
side.
from the deer.
holy moly.
This
Now, the
thing
kid-
was intelligent enough to hang
Fighting over it.
it and to subdue it.
It looks
Mhm.
like they were fighting over it. One pulling one side, one pulling the other, and they might have used the tree to try to wedge it through.
Right.
And this rock here is what the kids believed was used to bludgeon the deer on the head to kill it.
Wow.
Well, it looks like on the other side of the hand, it looks like blood. Don't you see it?
There's
Dark.
dark staining here on the rock that could be blood. It's hard to say. By the
Yeah.
time we got there, we looked at the rock. Everything was dried on. There was no way to tell if it was blood or not.
Yeah, not that old. Yeah.
And then
Wow.
we began to find this. A lot of tree branches that were broken and pulled down, blocking pathways and blocking different paths into the forest. This was found. A tree we found was uprooted and put into a couple of other trees. So it was a fascinating case.
Okay, so when the first thing that you showed was like the little teepee looking thing. Have we
Mhm.
found where he lives yet? Where does Daryl sleep?
We don't know. We have no idea. What's theorized amongst Bigfoot researchers these are called tree markings, and they're territorial markings where if there's a Bigfoot or a clan of Bigfoot that live in that area, they put these up to warn other clans or other creatures, this is my territory, or even humans. This is my territory. Don't come in here. Stay out. And we find this a lot in active Bigfoot areas. I don't know if Bigfoot does it. I'm not personally a big fan of this, but we do see this quite a bit when it comes to Bigfoot activity. But getting back to this is I've never seen a deer. I've been a hunter for 25 years. I've been out in the outdoors for over 22 years. I've never seen a deer like that.
No. No, Eric. I'm telling you, I'm a hunter too. I'm a podunk little girl from a town. And we hunt deer because it's free. Okay. And I've never seen anything like that in my entire life.
And to break the bone like that.
But to even set the intestines
Mhm.
to the side, like, nope, that's not what we want. I want this hind leg quarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they knew that.
And I know hunters, when they dress deer, and especially when I dress deer, there's a lot of valuable meat here. So I'm gonna cut that out. You know, the shanks.
Right.
I'm not gonna leave that here. Some of it actually left here. Looks like it's not cut. It looks like it's literally off the bone.
Right.
The bone is
Ripped
missing
off.
here. It's gone.
Yeah.
So
And for no other animal to even come in and scab it, you know, because there's scavengers out there,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
them to just be like,
Nothing
no,
touched
it's not our territory.
yeah,
You know?
nothing to
touched
touch
it.
that deer. So
Wow.
to answer your question, yes, we found deer we found animals like this. Yeah, they've been mutilated.
Wow.
That's unreal.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
Isn't it?
That just adds more to the story.
It does.
Wow.
Oh,
And that's why we think they're omnivores, because they not only have a diet that consists of berries, fruits, vegetation, but it also appears that they have a diet that consists of meat.
mm,
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
wow. I'm at wow. That's
We're stuck at wow.
never been a loss for words in the
Yeah,
motor.
absolutely fascinating.
Wow.
It's fascinating and it's
That's
almost frustrating
fascinating.
because you haven't been able to find any real solid proof other than the footprints and the sounds that people hear in the
Yeah,
But
I
it's
liken
but
it
the evidence
to
is
a rabbit
compelling.
hole. Yeah, it's very compelling. I liken it to a rabbit hole where once you start down that rabbit hole, you don't know where it's going to take you. And just when you think, okay, there's been a flap of sightings in this area, we're getting close to getting some answers or some good physical evidence, nothing.
Mhm.
And then the sightings
but-
stop and they go away. So
But think of it this way too. There are millions and millions of organisms and creatures and whatnot in the ocean that we still haven't identified. They're still
Mhm.
finding brand new, organisms and live animals and whatnot in the ocean. So why couldn't there be one on Earth that we haven't technically found and identified and, tried to extinct the humans that we are taking advantage of everything?
yeah, and that leads back to a point that I was making earlier. If the government does know these things are real and they do exist, they don't want the public to know about it because they may, us as humans being a destructive nature that we are, may try to eliminate them. And
Right.
so, I mean, there's a lot of different theories, a lot of different speculations involved in this field, and it's a rabbit hole. It really is. You never know what direction it's going to take. You never know where you're going to end up, or what you're going to find, or what you're going to experience. It's always something interesting.
Well, weren't you
That's
able
fascinating.
to do like a migration too, where you kind of thought that they were migrating from sightings?
Yeah. I have historical data that I've collected over the years, that reports from the 70s and 80s that show on a map that they start to, the sightings that cluster in one particular area and then they move from east to west across the state and then back from west to east over decades. And a lot of that data shows migration, but it's not data collected to actually support a migration theory. I mean, there's not enough data to show it migrating. Migration, in my period, and I don't think they're migratory animals. I think they're more nomadic, where they have a territory range, much like a bear. They to that territory and they move around in a territory. We don't know how large of a territory it is. It could be 100 miles, and I know bears' territory is very large than that. So they're being by people who were out active in that area, and that's why they're being seen and reported. Once they start having multiple things, they realize they're being seen, they're going to move on to a different area. So
Absolutely.
We have a
Wow.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Judy said, Eric, can you share the scariest hunch you had?
Gosh, I'm not really afraid. Excuse me. When I first started doing it back in like 97, actually going into the field and investigating cases and stuff like that, I was familiar with wildlife and being a hunter and outdoorsman. Familiar with what sounds, but the first time you hear something explained, that's unnerving, because you read about this, and I've read about this stuff and learned this stuff and educated myself since I was 10 years old about it. And people have encounters and experiences, some good, some positive, some not so positive, not good. And you read it and you think to yourself, okay, well, maybe that's really happening. But when you first hear that scream you can't identify, that can be a little unnerving, especially if you're out in the woods with a couple of buddies, you're trying to get, and all of a sudden something answers you back. Yeah, it can be a little unnerving. As far as scary experiences, I really haven't had scary experiences. I've always been more the kind of person to run towards the sound or go to see what the sound is, noise is, or what there, rather than run away from it. That's just my nature of curiosity. And sometimes it gets the trouble, but that's just what I want to do. I've been out with other people and scared so bad that they've actually peed themselves. Or one guy I was out with, we had rocks thrown at us and he experienced it. He freaked out so bad, he turned around and ran directly into me, almost knocking me over to get back to the car. It scared him so bad.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, stuff like that's happened. But I've never had anything that scared me so bad that want to leave. I mean, I want to stay. I want to see what's doing it. I want to, see one of these things for myself.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, Eric. I don't know. It's breaking down 40-foot trees. Okay. I think I'm a little scared. I'm not a liar. I'll admit it. I think I'm a little scared of this thing. this creature, like you call it. I like calling it a creature. And if I'm hearing like some of the stuff that I did, because I start doing a little research. When they said you were coming on, and I listened to some YouTube stuff with some crazy sounds, got me thinking. Like, really,
I don't know if
even.
I don't know if I can share this with you or not. I don't know if it'll work or not. Let me see if I can do this. Can I play audio files on here? Will that allow me to do that?
I don't know.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
Give it a whirl.
Try it.
We're not professionals here with the computer stuff by any means, so we're trial and error.
You
But
should be able to.
Heather made a question. She has a question. She said, "Have you found strange artifacts like objects from history at any of the sightings that you've researched or investigated?"
No, not really.
Like anything they may have been carrying, or I don't know.
I can't really say we have. That's a good question.
I'm just, I don't know. If you're going to be downloading some kind of weird sound and stuff, it might
I
give
was
me.
gonna play a sound for you that we heard on investigation if I can find it. I'm hoping
He should
that
be able to play it. Because
Oh, I
there's
hope.
no reason why he can't, because we all have audio. He should be able to be able to play it.
Let me see if I can find the file first. Hang on. I got so many stuff files on this computer. It's
I
not
bet.
funny.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm gonna for the viewers that are just coming in and view and starting to watch, we are with Eric Altman. He is a very well-known professional Bigfoot researcher. We have been having an amazing time with him. I've learned a lot. I was someone that was extremely and now I'm fascinated and kind of hooked. I'm gonna learn some more things about this. Just please make sure you're commenting below with any questions that you may have, and we'll get to them. If you have any experiences with Bigfoot or that you would like to share, anything, or even unknown things that you can't explain and you want to share them with us, maybe we have some insight on it. So just take a moment and comment below. Let us know that you're still here and watching. Thank you for being with us. How long we've been, I think we've been on almost 2 hours. Thank you for staying with us. It's fascinating. It's gone by too quick.
Eric,
little
you do have
scared.
Judy Campbell said she does want to read your book, so you need to finish it.
You better get on it.
Maybe someday I'll get it done. I have to apologize. I can't find the actual files, but I can play a couple of audios for you.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What are thought to be Bigfoot sounds? If it'll
Let me
actually
turn
play.
off everything that I got. Let me turn it up.
This will actually play. I don't know if it will or not. But we can try it.
Don't hurt to try. Ooh, this is promising. I don't think we can hear it. You can hear it?
Mm-hmm.
I can't hear it.
Turn up your volume, Eric. There you go.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Judy Campbell said audio. Oh yeah.
No, I can't hear it.
You can hear the sounds.
I'll try this one here.
Karen, we need the bionic ear.
Yeah.
No, it's not letting me hear it.
Yeah, I can't hear
Is
it.
it like tree knocks?
That was actually screams.
Oh, okay. Then I didn't hear it either.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not allowing me to play them.
It's
for you
not
guys to
doing it
hear.
right.
It's not, because only he can hear it, probably.
Yeah, I can
Crap.
hear it, but yeah.
Oh, that's probably because he has headphones,
Crap.
maybe.
Maybe, I don't know.
Crap.
Maybe we can go back and hear it on the playback.
Well, wait a minute. Can we share it in this thing? Maybe.
We'll let the tech
On the chat, you mean?
Yeah, in the Zoom, if there's a way to like share a file.
We did pictures.
Well, like if he puts in here in the chat, I just opened up the Zoom group chat. If you put the file over here, I should be able to play it in the Zoom. I would think, maybe.
I don't Zoom chat things, so.
Remember, it's not
Sorry.
working right.
We don't know all that stuff. I don't know any of it either.
It's just been
Oh, well.
fascinating though, listening to all of this and seeing all your, I mean, just the tree breakage and the deer was, wow.
Wow.
If you go to YouTube and you Google Bigfoot sounds, you can hear a variety of different sounds, screams, howls, whoops. There's some pretty
That's what I
compelling
did,
stuff
and
out
it
there.
scared the heck out of me, Eric. That's why I said to you, I went.
She'll never go out of the house again.
I'm gonna stay in a city. They don't come in the city.
Like I told you, there have been people I've taken out with me that have had some pretty harrowing experiences, and they've regretted going out.
See? So Heather said, she's talking about those artifacts. She said, I didn't know if maybe when Bigfoot steps in the ground and breaks things up, if things come to the surface, from like past wars or whatever. They're so big.
I've never found anything like that. So no,
Wow.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not leaving the town. I'm not a big fan anyway, unless I'm in an RV. And now I'm kind of skeptical about being in the RV in the woods because that guy had that thing being shaken.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that deer. But you know what? Somebody.
What about the reservoir in Waynesboro? Aren't we going there?
Yeah.
Were you ladies able to see that print from Waynesboro? I showed you?
Yeah.
You saw
Yeah.
it? There were over 300 of those found around the edge of the reservoir.
So wild.
Yeah.
So with 300, do you think there was more than one, obviously?
No, we think there was just one that walked along the perimeter of the reservoir and left 300 tracks. So
Wow.
That's just crazy.
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. We're gonna go to this reservoir. I'm gonna. And I'm going, somebody commented earlier in the comments saying, how about if they're nice and they're just being territorial and saying, stay away from me and we'll stay away from you and we can live in harmony. Maybe they're nice and just misunderstood, like she said, just like everybody and everything, it could also be nice and gentle if they felt safe with whoever. And then this breaking thing when they feel threatened. So, I mean, maybe.
Well, I treat them like animals, even though they're described as very human looking. I still treat them like animals, and animals in the wilderness are very unpredictable.
Right.
So you have to use good common sense when you're out there. And even if you have an encounter, you can't think that these things are going to come up and give you a hug and take you out for milk and cookies.
We're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, so you have to really be careful. They may have good intentions, but they can change. I'm sure their attitude could change on the snap of a dime.
I'm not running, girls. I'm dropping and acting like I'm dead, like a bear. I'm not making a joke. I'm being serious. Like, if we come encounter with one of these things.
Don't amateurs going out there and just going out there and going willy-nilly, because number one, you don't know what kind of danger you're going to put yourself in.
Right. I'm nervous about that.
Well, for starters, most people are looking for the thing at night. And I'm sorry, I'm a country girl. I know what's in my backyard at night. I've got mountain lions, I've got cougars, I've got coyote. Yeah, I'm not going Bigfoot hunting without a big gun.
I don't carry a sidearm with me, and a lot of people say I'm stupid for doing that, but I've never carried a sidearm with me unless I'm hunting. I carry bear mace, and that's about the extent of, and a pocket knife. So if I am approached by an animal, I whip that bear mace out and spray, and I've never had an issue.
Right.
I've never had a problem. So
Note, we got to go to Amazon and get some of that.
You have to respect territory. I mean, that's the thing. We're going into their territory.
Right.
And that's probably why they don't want us to know what's going on out there. Jim Campbell said, just a thought here, could they be some sort of alien life form maybe that could be another reason why they're so scarce?
Yeah, he talked about that at the beginning. That was one of the theories.
Yeah.
They were alien.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know enough about these creatures. So
No.
It's so interesting you saying that. Like, we don't know enough about these creatures, but we know so much, but not enough. Does that make sense? I mean,
you know enough to get interested, and like he said, go down the rabbit hole, but there's not enough evidence out there to prove that there is something out there yet.
Exactly.
I tell you, I took a lot of notes during that. I took a lot of notes, Eric. Things I'm going to be looking up, and these Native American, the Pacific Northwest, and I mean, I'm going to be researching this a little bit.
A lot of information out there, a lot.
But the thing is, I'll go to the places where you say is,
valid.
Legit, valid.
Mm-hmm.
On your website, you have different, other websites that you can check out and stuff like that. Those will be the one things that I'll look at, because I don't want to get misinformation.
Right.
And just like the paranormal world, you have some that don't even look at, and then you have some that are, the real deal. Oh, look, you got another kitty that's so small.
Yeah, that's my cat paws.
We like animals, can you tell?
Why?
So funny, Judy Campbell just said, if I get a Bigfoot encounter, there is not going to be any other communication. I'll be gone so fast. Bye-bye, Bigfoot. But it is. It's just been fascinating, and you're just a wealth of knowledge because, again, you have 22 years of experience of all of this information.
Well, I've been studying it since I've been the phenomenon since I was 10 years old. So I've got about 39 years of knowledge on the subject.
Wow.
Research, yeah.
Oh,
amazing.
That's like with Sharon, who wants to go. Is there a good, reliable book or source out there that you feel that has pretty good information in it?
Well, there's a lot of them, a lot of really good books out there. I don't even know where to start you. There's so many.
So what you're saying is before we do any Bigfoot, investigating as Mind's Eye, we need to contact you and get pointers from you on what we need. Bear mace is number one.
Bear mace. Yeah. We've already got a parabolic mic, so we should be good there.
Parabolic mic.
Didn't I read that you studied under Stan? Is that his?
Yes, that's my Stan. Yep.
That's probably where I'll go to. Do you see?
Yeah, Stan really knows his stuff. He's been at this. He's a ufologist and a Bigfoot researcher for 65 years, and he's been in a long time, and he really knows his stuff. And Stan and I have known each other for probably 40 of those years. So
you only study Bigfoot, even though you're a cryptozoologist?
No, I actually study unknown, undiscovered animals. Bigfoot's just my main interest.
But like Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra, stuff like that?
I've studied the Chupacabra mystery, and I think that's actually a canine, either a hybrid canine or a mutated canine that's killing chickens and livestock. Was first seen in Puerto Rico in 1995. Now it's America states like the Gulf states, Texas, Louisiana, New Mexico, and I think that's just a hybrid. It's either a coy dog or it's a coy wolf that people are seeing. And as far as the lake monsters go, I'm fascinated by lake monsters. I don't live near any states that have lake monsters in them. As a man lake called Raystown Lake, and people claim there's a lake monster in it, Raystown Ray. I disagree with that because it is a man-made. So it's hard to fathom that there's some kind of aquatic living in the lake when the lake was created by people.
Right.
So,
right. I agree with that because it would have to be put in. It can't just manifest in the middle of a lake. That was me. I mean,
it might be something like a sturgeon, a very large sturgeon people are seeing, or an eel or a turtle, a very large. These animals get pretty big, and they can be misidentified pretty easily. So,
I need to look into more of this crypto zoo.
It's almost 9
Cryptozoology.
o'clock. Eric, we thank you so much. You have been fascinating
Absolutely.
tonight. And if
You're
you
welcome.
would like to come back, just let us know anytime you want to come back, or if you want to talk paranormal with us, we'll be happy to do that too.
Be happy
Yeah.
to. And actually, you ladies might be able to help me on a future episode because I live in a very haunted, active house. Haunted house.
Cool.
Very active.
Oh, we'd love to.
Matter of fact, my wife had something happen to her this morning where she came down to the basement to close the basement door, and the door is literally pulled out of her hands on the other side.
Wow.
Man,
Yeah, so
You
stuff
just
is always happening here.
and we're there.
it's a man.
Cool.
I just
Cool.
got that. It's a man that grabbed the door from her.
Well, I'm not sure. We've had several paranormal teams into the house to investigate, and like I said, I'm a paranormal enthusiast, so I don't want to investigate my own house. I'd let other people
right?
come in
Yeah,
and do
don't
it.
tell us.
Yeah, so I've had other people come in and investigate, and they've gotten different things. A lot of hits on the K2, the REM pods, the tri-field meters, a lot of electromagnetic energy EMF in the house. And there's it's a very aggressive, whatever it is. It's done some damage in our house. Yeah, so we can talk about that on another show. That'd be
Wow.
fun.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
Absolutely.
I'm serious. Anytime. You're fascinating.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Love to meet your wife. Love to hear the experiences and the stories. I've had a blast.
It's been amazing.
Love it. Love
Yeah,
it.
great.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks for having me
Thanks.
on. It's been a fun time. A good time.
Good.
It's just been fascinating to list all the information, and of course now we know Sharon now is on board.
There you go.
So easily. Well, great. Thanks so much. And ladies, is there anything else? Are we good? We'll be back on in 2 weeks.
Well, we want to talk about the dream workshop that people have been asking about. We're going to have that dream workshop.
Yep.
That is June 12th from 7 to 9 p.m. Be looking, guys, because we're going to create an event for that. It's about dream interpretation. So come with your dreams, come with a journal with questions. It's going to be fascinating. Look for that event. On Sunday, this Sunday, 2 days, the 24th, I'm going to have a Zoom gallery reading. It is only $30, guys, and it's for 2 hours. You come and I'll read you. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you can find that information on my Facebook page at Guidance and Insight with Sharon. It's going to be great. So look at in the Mind's Eye Spiritual Group for the Dream Workshop. We'll have that event up ASAP. And then look on my page for that gallery reading. I'm super excited. And please make sure everybody that's watching, even if it's live or playback, check out Eric Altman.
Definitely.
Okay.
.net.
Fascinating guy, ball of knowledge. I'm hooked, guys. Let's find Bigfoot because I want evidence, okay, of him. Not feet, not trees, that scary stuff. I want to see him. I want to see this thing. So,
All right, guys.
So
All right.
much.
guys,
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again,
everybody.
Eric.
Thank you, Eric.